My name is Isa Crum. I currently work for a company called Wetlands and Water Resources. I previously worked for a company called WSP, Environment and Energy, and I was part of a small team of ecologists and wetland scientists. We basically called ourselves Ecosystem Science and Restoration, and we focused on wetland restoration, rare plant surveying and restoration of rare plants, and restoration of watersheds, including one which my former colleague Peggy Fiedler worked with Scott Holmes on in Pacifica, which was a really great project up there. For the Big Wave project, we were brought on to help Scott and Jeff determine the extent of wetland habitat on their property currently. In order to calculate the amount of wetland habitat currently on their landscape, we came on board and there's three parameters that we use to draw the line in the sand for wetland versus non-wetland habitats. The first thing that we do is we look at the plants in the habitat. The wetlands on the Big Wave project are dominated by perennial plants, so there are cattails and bulrush, which are the obvious wetland features that you can see from where I'm standing right now. And so we record what those plant species are, and then we refer to a list of plants, and it basically tells us whether or not that plant species would grow in a wetland habitat or not. The second thing that we do is we dig in the soil, and in doing so, we're able to look for evidence of active ponding or long-term saturation in the soil. So in order for a wetland to be functioning and active, there's typically some amount of ponding throughout the year. This is a coastal habitat, so that degree of ponding would be more than, say, in the Valley of California. So what we see when we dig in soils in a wetland as opposed to in an agriculture land, we see various features that are very distinct. They're hard to miss. And we also characterize the color of the soil and any other indicators that would help us establish what is an active wetland versus a non-active wetland. What we could also do is dig even deeper and look for evidence of historic wetlands. So we did that as well on the property. The third thing that we do is we look for hydrology. So where is the source of hydrology that's actually determining or providing water into these wetlands? And there's various things we can look for. We can, obviously if you see water in your wetlands, that would be a good indicator. We look at historic or air photos that were taken recently and during a wet season, and we look for other indicators like water lines and things of those nature. And we use these three parameters basically to establish what habitats are wetland versus non-wetland. For the Big Wave project, there's been some controversy because a wetland delineation was done a few years ago, and the line that we drew was somewhat different from what was drawn a few years ago. And there's several reasons for this. There's always going to be some minor differences between one delineation line drawn by a team of scientists versus another, especially in a small-scale project like this. Wetlands can change quite a bit over time as various factors change. For example, climate, the source of water. The wetlands can expand and contract. The most current wetland delineation, is what we call it, should be the one that is used when determining by regulators the actual extent of wetland habitat on a property. Historic lines and boundaries are very informative because they guide where you should be looking, but those features do not describe modern features. That's why it's important to hire a team of scientists to do a current wetland delineation and not rely upon historic records to guide or establish how many acres of wetland habitat you have on a property. One wonderful thing about the Big Wave project, and something that we are very proud to support this project, is that There will be very little or minimal impact to the wetland habitats on this property. And what Scott and Jeff will be doing as part of their project is actually building more wetland habitat on the property than currently exists. In doing this, they will be bringing in native plants that have been grown from seed stock collected nearby. All in all, this is a wonderful project. Lots of work is being poured into maintaining coastal habitats and coastal wetlands, and any projects that are supporting such activities or promoting or restoring more coastal habitats should be supported 100%.